What up? Uncle Benji here. Welcome back to the channel. Continuing on today with the oral history of my collection. We have one of my favorite artists of all time that we're going to talk about today. I don't think I've talked about this artist yet on the channel, but you all know him well. His name is Nas, and this is a unique collaboration that I'm going to talk about. There's a vinyl here that I'll talk about a little bit that you can see, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is the CDs that I acquired from Nas first in 2003 was when this first came out. And this was, you can see it as MF Doom on the front. It was Nastradoomus was the name of this project. It was put out, kind of bootleg project, honestly, that was put out on Hip Hop Site was where I got it from, these CDRs that they put out. And as I've mentioned on previous videos, as y'all know, I was an MF Doom fanatic, especially around this time, around 2003. But I was also a huge Nas fan, probably in the early 2000s from like, 2000 to 03. It was Nas, it was Ghostface, it was Doom. Those are my favorite artists. And one thing with Nas, a lot of us Nas fans, we were big fans of his, but a lot of us didn't always think he had the best ear for beats, and especially trending towards his albums in '99, I Am and Nastradoomus. I was a fan of I Am, but it was definitely an album where you could tell like he's going for a little more commercial appeal. There's definitely songs on there that were for radio or not necessarily for me, but there were still plenty of joints on there that I loved. I listened to that I Am album a lot, even though it didn't quite live up to his previous two albums. But then Nostradamus came out, and was not an album that I really enjoyed. Like, the beats were so not up my alley that, as much of a Nas fan as I was at '99, I really didn't listen to this album. I don't even remember if I bought it. I don't have it now at this point. I may have bought it at that time. But it was something that after the first couple listens, I'm like, this just really isn't for me. The beats were just not were not good. And I was still a Nas fan. He put out Stillmatic, I think in '01, which I was a huge fan of. Put out Godson, another album that I liked a lot as well, more than those previous two albums, I Am and Nostradamus. But, this showed up on Hip Hop Site, like Nas songs from Nostradamus over MF Doom instrumentals. And MF Doom's instrumentals were big, just like his rapping was at this time. Special Herbs and Spices series was popping off, and I have several of those, especially the early ones, like on CD. But this, like, as soon as I heard it, I'm sure I had to wait till I get the CD. It wasn't just available online or anything like that. But it was incredible. Like, so many of these songs from Nostradamus with these Doom beats, all of a sudden, I loved them. I thought, great raps, great songwriting. I mean, there's a song on here, Family, with Prodigy. Him and Nas go back and forth, and it's like, man, it is incredible. But the original version is hard for me to listen to because of the beat. And there's so many songs like that on this project. And, this was something that was happening a lot in this period. You had like Jay-Z, the Grey album that Danger Mouse remixed. A lot of these bootleg remix albums were happening, and it was a really cool time. So it's cool to me now to see some of that culture still alive, especially modern day. A guy like August Fanon. I subscribe to his Patreon, and I shout from the mountaintops to everybody like, hey, this is a Patreon that's well worth your money, because for $10 a month, like, he remixes all these albums. A lot of them he does like in a day right after he hears them. I mean, we have official versions of his remix, which with the Billy Woods album he remixed last year, but like, he does them just on his own. The day the albums come out, he's putting out the Rock Marcy 656 remix. He's putting out Arm & Hammer Mercy remix. So I love that stuff because it gives you a chance to hear great lyricists with a different backdrop, and different lines will jump out to you. And August is really good at, making the beats in a way that the lyrics like stand out. And I don't know, who all was in charge of this. I forget. I knew at one point in time like who did these mixes, but man, the stuff like sounds really good. And after they made this, like a few years later in 2006, they also put out Nastradoomus Volume 2. And this had more tracks. The original one on CD had a track, it had a remix of I Ruled the World with Doomsday, which is crazy. So it wasn't all songs from Nastradoomus. It had another Nas song on there. But this one has a lot of Nas songs from different projects, not Nastradoomus, that are remixed. You got, One Love, It Ain't Hard to Tell is on here as well. Hate Me Now, I Can, You Won't See Me Tonight. So a lot of Nas songs from other projects remixed on this. It's a little bit shorter, but again, like, great project, really cool artwork on these, even though they're bootleg projects. They're just things that I've always enjoyed having in my collection. And I don't know when they put out the vinyl for this, but it has, double vinyl, A, B, C, D on the vinyl of the first CD. It is missing that last song on there, the If I Ruled the World remix. But it's really cool to have this volume on vinyl as well. At this time, like I said, I was a Nas obsessive, and even though Nas has still been making a ton of music since then, I kind of fell off the wagon like after around 04, 05. I think it might have been the Streets Disciple double album was the last one where it was kind of like, listened to it, I was like, man, I wish this would have been one album, and like there was just a lot of filler on there that wasn't for me. And then every album after that kind of had diminishing returns, and I just became less and less of a fan of that material. But I still celebrate all of Nas's older stuff. Like, I've been tweeting about him recently that, he has so many guest appearances on 90s songs too, that not only does he have, his first two albums are great, second two, and then the two after that I like a lot. But he has so many guest appearances in that period that his body of work is really substantial. And he'll always be one of my favorite rappers, even if he's not a guy like I really check for that much anymore. I also wanted to mention in this collection that I thought this kind of made sense with these that I'm showing. This right here, God's Stepson, was another remix album. This was done by Ninth Wonder. It was put out like a couple years after that first, I think it was maybe 05, 06 when this one was put out. But Ninth Wonder was a producer. It was really popping around that time. And while Godson was an album that I liked, there was still like a lot of beats on there that were kind of like, there's an Eminem beat on there, like maybe a couple Eminem beats, I forget, but there's definitely some improvements on some of the beats from that on this album, even though this one is like an edited version. But still, like, anytime I can hear Nas song that has some good lyrics on a good beat instead of, maybe a subpar beat that was chosen originally, that's something I'm into. So, this is a really unique part of my collection. I don't see many people talk about these albums. It was kind of like being there at that point in time. Really unique, but I listened to them a lot, and it was really a combination of some of my favorite things at the time. And I think, anyone who's making music, whether you're doing something like August Fanon is doing on his Patreon, like, have fun with it, whether you remix a song or you're making your own stuff or you make a whole project and throw it out there, whether it's official or bootleg, just, use your creative energy, because you never know, like, something that you might just tinker with over a weekend might lead to something that, means a lot to someone like me to have these in my collection, so that's Nastradoomus, a classic to me that obviously I have in multiple formats, and I still enjoy listening to this day. Look out for more videos here in the near future, y'all. Peace out, Uncle Benji.